Let's do a fun question here from Josh Williams. I like this one. He says, if WCW made a movie based on one thing, would it be the first Nitro and things that happened that night, like the Saturday Night Live movie that came out last year? Or would you do it on the creation of the NWO? So if there was going to be a feature film, so we'll call it an hour and 40 minutes, and we're going to tell a story in WCW, would it be the night Hogan turned heel and the creation of the NWO, or would it be the night of the very first Nitro? So it's done in terms of that very first show, and maybe it's something else. If you were going to do a WCW movie on one night in WCW, what night would it be?
Oh, on one night?
One night.
Oh,
So,
it would
so,
have it would
so
have
let me give you the premise of the Saturday Night Live movie. Nobody had ever seen Saturday Night Live. This is the very first episode of Saturday Night Live. Nobody really even understands the concept, but they're going to debut it, ready or not. Whether you're ready or not, we're live on NBC tonight. And so Lauren Michaels and that crazy cast of characters from the original Saturday Night Live cast, we got to see how they all came together and created a new show that nobody really knew what to expect, and expectations weren't very high. And now we know it became an institution. So that was sort of the idea behind the movie. So if we were to take a look at one feature film about one night in WCW, what would it
mm,
be?
that makes it a lot easier. And there'd be multiple choices, which is great when you're pitching a movie because you never want to pitch one idea. You want to have another one in your back pocket in case you have to shift on the fly. I would go first with the launch of Nitro. From the minute I sat down at Ted's office to the minute we went live in Minneapolis, that movie would be about that night. And how important of a night that was. This is what I beat on. I know people think, man, are you tired of putting yourself over, Eric? Do you ever get sick of cramming your bullshit down our throat because you want us to believe what you believe? This is not that. I've talked about this, and this is a great example. I've said before how I personally, not necessarily for my ego, but for my kind of objective awareness of things. I know I am a large part of the success to this day of WWE. Not necessarily directly, obviously, but indirectly, I forced Vince McMahon into a format change and a strategic business change because of what I created at Nitro. You can argue that all you, not you, Conrad, but one can argue that all they want. The timeline, the completely obvious change in strategy, including the day and date of the announcement by Vince McMahon in November. It's, you cannot deny what I'm saying to be absolute truth. Had WWE not, here's my backup, or not my backup, my point. Had WWE not made that shift and focused on the 18 to 49-year-old demographic that I used as a target for Nitro and built my show to appeal to, because they were right in the bullseye of my target, because that was completely different than the bullseye for WWE. I couldn't hit their bullseye, but I could hit mine. When that shift to 1849 happened in the professional wrestling genre, everything about the business shifted with it. That doesn't happen without Nitro. Nobody will convince me I'm wrong. I'll be interested in a good, solid, well-researched argument because I'll learn something. But, you know, subjectively, you want to argue that without any basis for it, it's like, okay, go read a dirt sheet.
Let's do another question here. This is from Ari. He says the Monday Night Wars electrified pro wrestling, but what about the negative aspects of it? Squash matches help promote pay per views and house shows by giving away top matches for free on TV. Did pro wrestling forever lose an important marketing tool? Now, what I think is interesting about this is, you have said before, and I love the way you describe this because I think you've retold the story before on the show, where when you first were watching wrestling with Lori, you were explaining to her, this is years before you're in the business, that this is one of the most true forms of marketing there is. And I love that your brain worked where you saw, oh, wow, they're just trying to use this as a promotional vehicle to sell tickets. And I don't think a lot of people necessarily put that together. They're just watching a show, but you got it. And so I do think what Ari is bringing up is a valid point, in that you understood as a fan watching on television, oh, they're showing me these matches in order to get me to pay with my wallet and come down to the arena and buy a ticket. I get that. But that is certainly going to change when you're trying to compete with Monday Night Raw, because we don't want to have enhancement matches versus enhancement matches all the time. Of course, we still saw enhancement matches on Nitro, but there was a shift. Did you? And I know that you're a television company, so you're not operating and making decisions for this television company like you would a traditional wrestling company, but you really got what house shows were all about. And I think that because you came out so strongly, and everybody knows how you feel about WCW house shows, and that they were losing money every time you left the building and all that sort of stuff. I think you get painted unfairly as trying to kill the house show business. The reality is they were losing money. It was broken. It wasn't working. But the idea that he really hit the nail on the head, it's an important marketing tool. And it does feel like, as we're talking about it today, Eric, house shows are a thing of the past. Like, they just don't really exist anymore. I mean, once upon a time, it was unfathomable for WCW or the WWF to not have at least three in a week. I couldn't tell you the last time they had one. Like, they're really, really rare. Do you think that the Monday Night Wars aided in killing the house show model, or was it on its way out no matter what?
It's on its way out no matter what. The costs are ridiculous. Even when you're doing, even when you do a 60 or 70% sellout and you're moving merch, the cost of traveling, talent, production, you still have lights, cameras, not necessarily cameras, you have lights and staging and rings and crews and all the electrical that comes with it, audio that comes with it. So it's not a television production in terms of scale, but it's still a significant expense. And every year it gets more and more expensive. Look, there's a lot in that question, and certainly what you added to it, Conrad. But the core of the question from Ari had to do, I think, the way I interpreted it. He's a lawyer, so I got to be careful how I say this stuff. Just kidding. We were a television company, as you pointed out. I was more concerned about the television revenue to WCW and the corresponding pay-per-view that went with it than I was about the house show business. To me, the house show business was a necessary evil. Even when they weren't making money, there were people doing it because it's cash flow. And if you listen to Dick Cheatham in any of Guy Evans' interviews or in his book, there were some sketchy things about cash flow. Not illegally sketchy, but borderline sketchy, but okay, moves in terms of cash flow. So I understood business-wise where they were doing it for as long as they did it. But when the business model shifted, once I was hired from this company either makes $1 a profit, turns a profit, or Ted is going to unplug it. That changed everything. Now, yeah, house shows are necessary evil for whatever justification you want to give them. But we can't afford them. That was the case in WCW. That's why I eliminated. We could not afford that line item expense, and ever hope to stay alive long enough to keep Ted from pulling the plug. So that was the first victim. Now, the reason I felt comfortable with that art is because this sounds corny as hell, and I understand it, but it was basically one of those sayings like, Gretzky's, skate to where the puck is going. This was not that. This was like, what's that Kevin Costner baseball movie?
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams moment. If you build it, they'll come. I believed in my head, if I could get people interested enough in the television property, it's really just math. If I can get this many people watching on television every week, I can probably get this many people to come to a house show. Guess what happened? That was my approach. That was my gut. It wasn't based on my experience because I didn't have any. This was my first experience in making a decision like this, but it turned out to be true. Because by eliminating squash matches, what happened to our television ratings? It came up. The brand became more popular. That's what happens when the brand becomes more popular, because the television is the brand. Everything else is just ancillary revenue opportunities. Just the low-hanging fruit that happens, right? Well, all of a sudden you raise the interest level high enough, the audience numbers get high enough. Now all of a sudden that bottom fruit that you really aren't worth, it's not worth picking. Now all of a sudden you can start selling house shows out or getting damn close. Now as expensive as they are, you've got margins. You can break even. You can make money. You can lose money less often. It's promotion, it happens. But getting rid of squash matches not only didn't destroy a marketing opportunity, it was a marketing opportunity that grew the business across the boards, from television ratings to house show attendance to licensing to merchandising. That one move of getting squash matches off TV is what elevated the business, because what elevates a business is driven by television.
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, well, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment, and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105. Or get yourself a quick quote, even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com.